Good morning, everyone. Today is a great day for the state of Nebraska, the United States, and if we're being honest, the world as a whole. Why? Mr. Keisei Tominaga, the Japanese Steph Curry. Yes, he is officially an NBA player. He has signed a contract. It's not as lucrative as that of LeBron James Jr., Bronny James. It's not that lucrative. However, it is significant. It is ideal. It is just, and it is what needed to happen. Let for everyone catching up. For everyone who maybe doesn't know, no worries. We'll get you all caught up to speed. All good, all good. Keisei Tominaga, community college player, comes to Nebraska, can shoot the lights out. One of the more electrifying players. We've all seen the patented, right? We've all seen this before. Is someone Keisei Tominaga is that can score points and does so in style. Now, what does that get you? Being able to score at that level, being able to do so with that amount, with that level of, oh wow, that was really cool. That was impressive. It gets you the direct endorsement by one Mr. Steph Curry. Keisei Tominaga has him as a mentor, him being Steph Curry. Keisei Tominaga has connections there now through Steph Curry. And the fact game recognizes game, real recognizes real. The fact that Steph Curry, and we all have seen the nickname, the Asian Steph Curry, fine. Not necessarily opposed to that. Fine, fine, fine. We now, particularly in this draft class, I think we have to acknowledge that there are a bunch of, you know, grinders out there. You know, a lot of people who could end up being good. But not a lot of locks, not a lot of surefire will hit talents. And the fact that Steph Curry has embraced him, not only through social media reaching out and acknowledging his game, but also a little bit of a lucrative contract there, right? The Curry brand. He signed Tominaga earlier this year to a big deal, right? We all remember this. I remember this. You remember this. We all remember this. This isn't a fluke. This isn't a one-year wonder. This isn't Nebraska had a good player one year and they went on a run and then and it just got stifled because they couldn't live up to the competition against Texas A&M. All right, that's an interpretation of this, I suppose. But the fact that all of this is happening, a lot of stars are aligning, and everything that's happening furthermore, this is more than a blip. This the Keisei Tominaga, the excitement, shout out to Joe at Java Joe Sports. That is here to stay, ladies and gentlemen. For how long, I don't know. But this will be longer lived. This is going to be more of a moment than insanity. That I can promise you. And speaking and speaking of which, no earmuffs, Joe, again at Java Joe Sports on the Twitter. I personally don't remember this. Although my authority on the topic failed to tell me about him before it happened. We let the show down once. We've let him down twice. And it will continue to happen a third, fourth, and fifth time. So that's on me, Joe. Um. So unless you unless I failed to mention it to you personally, I suppose, not just Joe, but everyone else listening at the moment. I'll concede I may have forgotten to mention this to multiple people, which 100% on me, because when that news broke that he signed for the Curry with the Curry brand, he being Keisei Tominaga, I told a lot of people, and it was unwelcomed at the time, but fine. People need to know what they need to know. So I recall shouting it from the rooftops, and I recall telling it to all my friends, my family. No, I walked through the town square. I shook people's hands. I said, "You heard, right?" And they were like, "Of course we did, right?" And me having the red hat on. So I did mention it to most people. So this is why, again, I remember this, you remember this, we all remember this. Unless I personally didn't, I may have failed to, I may have missed a couple people. This I'll concede. So my deepest apologies to Joe. My deepest apologies to anyone who I did not personally tell this to. But yes, Keisei Tominaga is signed with the Steph Curry brand. Is signed with the Indiana Pacers, is about to go off in the Olympics. Now, more on that in a moment. In terms of his possible, why I'm really excited for the Olympics and the potential for there. But there, Joe, yeah, again, my deepest apologies. We will make amends for it, um, most likely and most effectively in the form of a gift card. Um, to be redeemed no time soon, and this valid will stand uh, for as long as there is the open season of a possibility of Keisei Tominaga being fantastic. So right, that's a long way of saying, TBD in terms of when, TBD in terms of when this can be exchanged, or when this commercial exchange can take place. But anyway, moving on. The Japanese Olympic team. Now, they've played a couple games, and they have, let's see, I want to say it's on the 6th, which would be tomorrow. They have some games coming up in preparation for the Olympics, but when you play Australia twice, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good stepping stone. That's a pretty good gauge of where you are in the Olympics. And we have to separate for all the exclusive American fans out there who don't tune into Euro or FIBA ball. You have to separate the fact of your vision and your preconceived notion of just the United States universally being the best team in basketball. Yes, by far, obviously, the United States has the most talent. And if we're picking a starting five, for most countries, I would say Canada would be a possible exception, but even SGA isn't going to make the trip now. Shout out the Warriors. Or shout out the Warriors. I was thinking of Wiggins, my fault. You get the idea, though. Um, so I had a little bit of a gaffe there, but you get what I'm saying, right? Outside from maybe Canada, who I think you could possibly argue for multiple spots, maybe France, right? Depending on how you view Gobert and Wemby. There aren't too many players 1 through 5 who are on the US who wouldn't just automatically have a starting role at their assigned spot. And for sure, if any starting 5 player 1 through 5, and if we're being really honest, I won't go out so far as to say 1 through 12. But if we're being really honest, 1 through 8, there aren't too many United States national players 1 through 8 who who aren't going to start on any other national team, right? They might have to switch positions, or they might have to play slightly out of position. But all right, let's be real about that. So talent-wise, absolutely, the United States is number one, and it is particularly close. However, we are now under FIBA rules. And this is one of the main reasons why I hate having the conversations in regards to eras. Because rules drastically change your approach and how you play the game. In FIBA, you can do things that you're not allowed to in the NBA, and the NBA most significantly travel and carrying the ball, has rules that aren't allowed in FIBA. Two completely different entities, two completely different styles of play, two completely different approaches, and these are national teams where everyone plays for their country. Okay, so to say that the reason why they play harder is because it's for their country, there's an element to that, but that's not really a basketball reason, right? That's and if right, these are professional level athletes. So are there times where you mail it in on a random regular season game? Yes, sure. But the amount of effort, if we're just saying effort, the amount of effort that one exudes uh for your NBA team, it's pretty up there because for obvious reasons. So and that being said, playing for your national team, playing for your country, that could add another element to that. But let's be clear that if we look at the analytics between in terms of level of exhaustion, there isn't going to be this magical uptick, right? That's just not humanly possible. So you might feel better about it, right? You might have that sense of pride about it, and it's different. But right, we need to also get rid of this notion that Patty Mills just becomes a much better player in Australia when he plays for the Australian national team, for example, right? I promise you, he gives a lot of effort and hustles when he was playing for the San Antonio Spurs, right? And when he was waving his towel around. I promise you that's the case. But anyway, where am I going with this? The reason why there's an uptick from other nations in the Olympics, in like the FIBA World Cup, etc., is because of that continuity. They have grown up, they have more of a system playing together, and they I'm gonna stick mostly to European basketball because that's what I know best, but I'm gonna assume that the same holds true for South American and Asian, African basketball. I'm gonna just assume this based on the smaller sample size that I've seen of nations from those continents. But anyway, also shout out Oceania. The continuity, the togetherness, and the overall mindset and approach. Period. Regardless if you're under FIBA rules or NBA rules, is different. Where on the American side, usually the American side of basketball, and this is throughout, is far more focused on ISO ball and one-on-one ball, significantly so. And that's the main obstacle that every Team USA coach will have is them being so used to being the guy and them not being brought up in a system. Now you look at Slovenia and say, yeah, but Doncic is still being super inefficient and whatever. Yes, that is true. However, he has been brought up in the European style of play, and even if there's a heavy ISO player, the overall team approach is stronger and team mindset is stronger. And for sure, it's a little, and this is gonna sound like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm really not. So if you yeah, maybe we'll make a video on this one day to explain further if there are any questions. I doubt it, but anyway. It's different in terms of that it's almost you approach basketball as a given where it's more of an ISO one-on-one stardom in the American approach, right? Who's got the best moves or let me just get my shot versus in Slovenia with Doncic right now, it's like, all right, he is right now the hot hand. He is right now our best player. So he gets his time, he gets his moment, but that wasn't the default. The default is team play, passing, off ball movement. And while we didn't see that in some of his less efficient games so far, we can guarantee that Doncic shooting 20 plus shots and being inefficient isn't something that's going to hold true. And it won't be a second question. They'll just revert back to that more holistic team play. Okay. Assuming, although I'm really looking forward to the matchup between them and Greece. But anyway, that's beside the point. Back to Keisei Tominaga in Japan. He's been getting minutes, and we saw this against Australia. And he's been getting buckets. So I don't know how much playing time he's going to get, but it's going to be significant minutes. And this Olympic experience, being on this team, is only going to help him. So any criticisms you may or may not have of his game, anything that you are thinking in terms of, well, he's just not ready, he's not the athlete, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He is a world-class shooter. He is improving his off-ball movement. He has holes on defense in his defensive game, just like many scoring guards do. But this Olympic experience, the time in Nebraska, and now this opportunity, I'm gonna assume, right, it's the 10-day, I always say 10-day PBR contract. I know those aren't the initials, or I know that's not the acronym, but you get what I'm saying. It's the 10-day contract. I'm going to just assume for the moment that he makes a summer league team, whether it ends up being the Pacers or not. So he'll get his chance. And will he maybe end up having to go the G League route? Sure. But we know this. The eyeballs will be on him regardless. He's going to continue to develop. And again, most importantly, right now, he has arguably the most important number one supporter, Steph Curry, and the nation of Nebraska basketball and Nebraska athletics. But that's all the time we have for now. Tune in 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be on